My wife built a perfect reputation as a kind, selfless woman, but behind closed doors, she was poisoning me and sleeping with her ex in a wheelchair. If I told you I once lived with my wife and her fake paralyzed father, who was actually her ex-fiancé pretending to be disabled so they could keep sleeping together under my roof, would you believe me? I wouldn't have believed me either. But I lived it. 2 years ago, I married someone the entire town practically worshipped. She wasn't just beautiful. She was saintly, the kind of person who'd volunteer at the animal shelter in the morning, feed the homeless by noon, and then organize a charity fundraiser before dinner. Local media called her our town's angel. She even had a growing social media presence, videos of her giving food to the poor, hugging sick kids, crying during prayer. And I won't lie, I was proud to be the man by her side. I made good money, had a stable job in software, and figured we made the perfect team. I provided, and she made the world better. About a year into our marriage, she told me something that made me admire her even more. Her estranged father had fallen seriously ill. He had suffered a stroke, lost the use of his legs, and had no one else to care for him. She hadn't spoken to him in over a decade due to some messy family history. But now, she wanted to help. Of course, I told her to bring him home. That's what good people do, right? So, he moved in. A quiet, pale man in his late 40s, said almost nothing, barely looked at me, always sitting in his wheelchair. He had this kind of dead stare, like he was there, but not really. She cared for him around the clock, cooked for him, helped him bathe, even massaged his legs, to keep the blood flowing, she said. I honestly thought she was amazing, exhausted, but amazing. But then things started feeling off. It began with a stupid pair of slippers. One night, I dropped my phone near the couch and bent down to grab it. I noticed something under Dad's guest bed. A pair of men's slippers, normal, except they were used, like actually worn down. Faded soles, bent shape from someone's feet. I couldn't stop staring at them. The man couldn't walk. Why would he need slippers? I told myself I was overthinking it. Maybe she used them when helping him stand. Or maybe they were his from before. Whatever. I pushed the thought away. But then, a week later, I came home earlier than usual and saw something weird again. There was an ashtray on the kitchen counter with a half-smoked cigarette in it. We didn't smoke. I'm asthmatic, and my wife always made a point about clean air and protecting our bodies. When I asked her about it, she laughed and said one of the neighbors dropped by to check on her dad and smoked while chatting. Reasonable, but the laugh felt forced, the kind of laugh you practice before lying. Still, I let it go. I was tired. I didn't want to be that guy who doubts his perfect wife for no reason. Then came the muscles. I'd been working from home one day and accidentally walked into the bathroom while Dad was in there changing his shirt. I apologized immediately and turned around, but not before I saw it. His arms, his fucking arms. The man looked like he could bench press me. His triceps were huge. Veins, definition, even that shoulder dip that only shows up if you actually lift weights consistently. Not something you'd expect from a man who'd been paralyzed and sitting in a wheelchair for months. Something snapped in me right then, like the illusion I'd been clinging to started cracking. But I still didn't confront them, because I wanted to be sure. I started paying attention more, watching how she spoke to him, how often she was in his room, the weird, subtle touches, the way they'd get quiet when I walked in. Then, I saw it. I wasn't even supposed to be home that afternoon. I had a last-minute meeting get canceled, so I drove straight back without texting. Walked in through the front door. Everything was quiet. I remember thinking the house felt too quiet. I walked past the hallway and stopped. They were in the living room, sitting close on the couch, laughing. His hand was on her thigh. She leaned in and kissed him. Not on the cheek, not a daughter-to-father kiss. A slow, deliberate kiss, one that said, "This has been going on for a long time." My legs felt like cement. I didn't know whether to scream or throw up, but instead, I backed away, stepped outside, sat in my car, and stared at the dashboard for what felt like hours. I didn't cry, I didn't yell, I just sat there, the pieces clicking together in my head one by one. She wasn't just cheating, she'd built an entire world of lies around me, around us. That man was no father, that man was someone else entirely, and I was going to find out exactly who. After what I saw that day, there was no going back. I didn't confront her, not yet, and honestly, I think she knew. Not that I'd seen them, but that something in me had changed. The way I looked at her, the way I stopped asking how her day went, the way I flinched every time she walked past me. It's wild how people can live in the same house and still live in different realities. She carried on like nothing had happened, making her green smoothies, sharing inspirational Bible quotes on Instagram, posting selfies with her sick father to raise donations for local charities. The whole town still thought she was some selfless, suffering saint, caring for two disabled men under one roof. Meanwhile, I was sleeping next to a stranger. So I did the only thing that made sense to me. I hired a private investigator. I didn't even know what I was looking for at first. Just wanted to know who this man really was. Was he even her father? Was this some weird incestuous relationship? Or were they both just out of their minds? The answer was worse than I imagined. 2 weeks later, the PI came back with a name, Mason Grant. Not her father, not even a distant uncle. Mason Grant was her ex-fiancé. They'd been engaged 6 years ago, long before we met. He was charming, successful, a smooth talker. But then he got caught up in a serious fraud case. Real estate scam, forged documents, fake investments. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison. After that, his name disappeared. Public records stopped. No employment, no social activity, nothing. But apparently he had one thing left, her. According to the investigator, she used to visit him in prison, wrote him letters, even promised to wait for him. But somewhere during those 3 years, I showed up in her life. And I guess I was the safe choice. The stable husband with a career, a future, a clean slate. So she married me. And when Mason got out of prison, she brought him back as her father. I actually laughed when I first heard it. Laughed like a crazy person. Because who the hell does that? Who fakes a parental identity, moves into your house, pretends to be paralyzed just to keep sleeping with your wife? Apparently, them. The PI went further. He found security footage of them shopping together before Dad ever moved in. No wheelchair, no limp, just two people holding hands and buying groceries. He found an old photo of them kissing back when they were engaged. Same guy, same face, just with shorter hair and no fake glasses. Every puzzle piece clicked into place. They had planned this. Maybe not from the very beginning of my marriage, but definitely early enough. The timing matched too perfectly. She married me only 6 months before Mason got released, which meant this wasn't just cheating. This was fraud, manipulation, a long con. And then, just when I thought I had reached the bottom of the rabbit hole, my health started to decline. It began subtly: fatigue, headaches, joint pain. I figured I was just stressed. I was barely sleeping, eating like crap, living on autopilot. But then came the dizziness, the numbness in my fingertips, the trembling in my left leg. I went to the doctor, ran blood work. They didn't find anything conclusive, but the neurologist mentioned something strange. My symptoms mirrored early-stage nerve damage, possibly toxin-induced, possibly long-term exposure to certain compounds. I had no clue what that meant, until I remembered the vitamins. My wife had been giving me these daily supplements for months, said they were natural mood boosters. She even poured them into my hand herself every morning. I never questioned it. Why would I? But now I kept every pill, had them tested, and guess what? The report flagged multiple compounds not listed on the label. Some of them, especially when taken long-term, could lead to neurotoxicity, muscle weakness, motor function impairment, in severe cases, paralysis. The same condition her dear fake father was pretending to have. I sat alone in my car for hours after getting the lab results, just staring at the folder. My whole body was trembling, but not from the toxins, from the rage, from the sheer scale of the betrayal. They were drugging me, slowly, quietly, while living under my roof, sleeping in my bed, spending my money, smiling in selfies. They were turning me into him. At that point, I knew I had two choices: walk away quietly, file for divorce, and let her take half of everything while maintaining her saintly image in public, or burn the entire illusion to the ground. And if you've made it this far, you already know which one I picked. I wasn't going to walk away quietly. Not after everything they did. I wanted justice. I wanted revenge. But more than anything, I wanted control back. For months, they had turned my life into some kind of sick theater where I played the fool. It was time for a new script, one where I was the one pulling the strings. But here's the thing. When someone is as deeply loved by the community as my wife, Going public right away almost guarantees one outcome: they become the victim, and you become the bitter ex. If I just filed for divorce, she'd play the misunderstood wife with a troubled husband. She'd cry. She'd post cryptic Instagram stories about grief and healing. She'd spin it like she was the one holding everything together until I broke. So I needed a longer game, one where the truth wouldn't just come out. It would collapse everything she built. Step 1, I kept taking the pills. Not a typo. I chose to keep letting them poison me, just enough to push my symptoms further. Why? Because I needed a medical record. I needed to land in the hospital with symptoms that looked serious, irreversible even. Something that would make them think they'd won. So I did it. I dragged my body through every day, felt the fog take over my mind, watched my hands shake while typing. When I finally collapsed at work one afternoon, it was almost a relief, like I'd crossed a finish line no one else could see. They rushed me to the ER. I could barely walk. Numbness, confusion, twitching muscles, the whole show. The doctors ran scans, kept me overnight, said it looked neurological and they needed more tests. Perfect. From there, I played the role. The weak, broken man losing control of his body. I let my wife cry over me, let her hold my hand, let her fake her concern in front of nurses. And Mason, he didn't even bother pretending anymore. He came to visit me alone one night, walked right into the room. No wheelchair, no limp, not even a cane. Sat in the visitor chair, leaned back like he owned the place. "You look terrible," he said with a smirk. "Guess karma's a witch, huh?" I stared at him, expressionless. He had no idea I had a voice recorder running under the blanket. "Shame about your legs," he added. "She always liked strong men." That night I emailed the audio file to my lawyer, which brings us to step 2. We needed them to leave town, but not just anywhere, somewhere remote, somewhere off the grid. So my lawyer, who's a genius in disguise, posed as a representative from a travel company. He reached out to my wife while I was in the hospital and told her something ridiculous, that I had booked a spiritual healing trip before my health got worse. A multi-day hike up a remote mountain trail in the Rockies. No phone service, no distractions, just nature and soul searching. It sounded insane, but to her, it was a publicity opportunity. She bit. She not only said yes, she decided to turn it into a public gesture of love. She gave an interview to a local podcast, crying softly while saying, "My husband can't even walk, and my father is still suffering. But I believe in miracles, so I'm going on this hike to pray for both of them, to ask the universe for healing, to show the power of love and faith." People ate it up. Her followers shared it everywhere. Even the local paper covered it. Local hero embarks on a solo spiritual journey to pray for her paralyzed husband and ailing father. Ugh. They packed their bags. My lawyer made sure they got the coordinates to the exact trail we wanted, one notorious for bad reception, the perfect place to vanish, even if just for a little while. And once they were gone, that's when I made my move. I miraculously improved. 2 days into their hike, I stood up on my own, walked out of the hospital under my own power. The doctors called it unexplainable, a blessing, a miracle. I leaned into it hard. Posted a tearful video thanking everyone for their prayers. Said I didn't know what happened, but I was grateful. And then, just as people were celebrating, I dropped the bomb. My wife hasn't come back from her hike. She's been gone for over 48 hours. No contact. I'm worried something's happened. Cue mass panic. People flooded the comments. "We'll help. Where was she last seen?" Praying for her safety. And then came the bait. I publicly announced a $10,000 reward for anyone who could find my wife on the trail. "She's not just my wife," I said. "She's this town's angel. We need to bring her home." That one post blew up overnight. The search turned into a local movement. Drones, hikers, amateur search and rescue teams. Influencers went up there live streaming. TikTokers vlogged the journey. Reddit threads popped up like wildfire. They had no idea the trap was already closed. And the best part? They were being recorded by strangers. Live streams, helmet cams, trail footage, all of it. Every argument, every unguarded moment, every time they slipped out of character, every time they called each other babe or baby instead of dad and daughter. They thought they were alone in the woods, but I made sure the whole world was watching. If revenge is a dish best served cold, then I had just delivered a 5-course meal. On ice. With my wife and her fake father up in the mountains thinking they were off the grid, the rest of the world was very much tuned in. The $10,000 reward I posted for her safe return turned into a viral movement. What I didn't expect was how invested people would get. Dozens of hikers volunteered to help with the search. Local influencers packed their gear and streamed their journey. TikTok was full of clips like day 1 of looking for the miracle wife or searching for the town's angel on Spirit Mountain. Some videos had hundreds of thousands of views. People were treating it like a social justice quest. But of course, people film everything nowadays. And that's what I was counting on. By the second day, people started uploading clips of encounters on the trail. Most were just scenic views, wildlife, motivational voiceovers, but a few were gold. One live stream caught my wife and Mason arguing off trail. They didn't know they were being filmed. She was pissed about the heat, the bugs, and the fact that the spiritual crap was taking too long. She literally said, "I just want to get this over with and post the photos already." Then came the kicker. Mason responded with, "Relax. We'll be back in time to catch the pity wave. You'll probably gain 50,000 followers from this alone." Yeah, that got clipped hard. It spread like wildfire. Reddit, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. People went from praying for her safety to exposing the scam. Somebody even stitched it with her tearful interview. "I'm not doing this for attention. I'm doing it because love demands sacrifice." The contrast was brutal. More footage popped up. Someone found an empty pill bottle in her hiking bag that matched the same supplements she had been giving me for months. Another person claimed she tried to bribe them into deleting a video. The comments turned nasty real fast. She went from angel to snake in less than 48 hours. Meanwhile, I stayed quiet. I played the grateful husband who just wanted his wife home safe. But behind the scenes, my lawyer was building the final move. When she and Mason came down the trail on day 4, dirty, tired, and confused by the sudden silence around them, there were 3 people waiting: a reporter, a sheriff's deputy, and me. I'll never forget her face when she saw me, standing. She froze like a statue. Her mouth moved, but nothing came out. Mason took a step back. I handed her an envelope, divorce papers, and a copy of the medical report. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. Mason tried to blurt something out, but the deputy cut him off. Turns out, impersonating someone for financial gain and participating in a scheme that involved potential poisoning was enough for them to hold him on fraud charges while they launched a deeper investigation. But honestly, I wasn't even looking for prison time. I just wanted the curtain pulled back. The days that followed were a beautiful, chaotic mess. Her social media collapsed. Brand sponsors cut ties. Charity boards removed her name. The same news outlets that once praised her were now using words like scandal, betrayal, and public deception. And the best part? I didn't say a word. I let the footage speak for itself. I let the public decide. I let them be the ones to rip off her halo. When the divorce finalized, she walked away with nothing. No money, no credibility, no Mason. He was too busy dealing with court hearings. As for me, I got my health back. Slowly. I switched doctors, got a nutritionist, and started running again. I deleted all my social media. I moved out of town. These days, I live quietly, not bitter, not angry, just free. And every once in a while, when someone sends me a viral TikTok exposing some fake influencer or healer getting caught in their lies, I smile a little. Because somewhere out there, my ex-wife probably still thinks she almost got away with it. But in the end, she wasn't praying for a miracle. She was walking straight into mine.